I'll call the Wednesday, December 10th, 2025 meeting of the Fire Station Building Committee to order. We are in room 120 of Town Hall and also available via Zoom. Got a few members on Zoom, so I'll take roll call attendance. Lindmark. Here. Ms. Baker.
Sorry, here. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Can't hear Justin yet, though. Skip him.
I'm here. I didn't hear you ask. I'm here. Aaron's here.
Kevin Champagne here.
Yeah,
right.
Kevin, just so you're aware, your audio seems to be kind of cutting in and out because I didn't hear you mention Justin either.
Oh, okay. How about, does it sound better now?
It does, yeah.
Words. All right. First agenda item is public comment.
Just a minor point, Donna Jones, North Street. To the east, there are new trees that were planted and there's a green bag or plastic wrap at the bottom of them. What purpose was that supposed to serve and can it come off yet?
It's water. Okay.
I thought it was a water bag to focus the water onto the tree and it just seems to be loose and not weighted down.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We can ask the contractor.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comment?
I do. Yeah.
Seeing none. All right. So our only discussion item tonight is the results of the detention basin investigation and a discussion of next steps. Steve, I'll turn it over to you unless you want to just give it directly to Niche, whoever's going to present.
I can start it off. Just as an update for those who may not know, we were back on site on the 7th of November to do the or attempt to do the test pit to review groundwater, but more importantly to take sampling of the bioretention soil. And originally we were going to take 4 samples, but when we got into the field, we opted to take 3 samples of the bioretention soil, and then 1 sample of the sand, which was the next layer down. And Felsch Engineering was out to collect those samples and run a sieve analysis, and they were working for Beta. And Beta was also out there. All parties were present for this. So we did that. The basin did have water in it, was pumped, but it was still somewhat wet. So there was a little bit of difficulty really trying to determine where groundwater might be as of that day. We think we had it at about 4.5, 410, maybe from the top of the bioretention mix, but it was a little bit difficult. However, we did install another piece of wrapped perforated pipe in that excavation, which gets it a little bit deeper than the monitoring well that was installed originally. Those samples went out, and it took a little bit of time to get the analysis back. But Felsch did, they gave us the sieve analysis. We were hoping that they would give us an opinion on compliance with the submitted materials. However, they did not. But Niche sort of did an overlay, which I believe is part of Mercer's presentation, showing that it was high in fines, and the lower third was the highest, and then the upper 2 areas were also higher than what the approved submittal was. We also looked into and have had a couple of conversations about potential options to make improvements in the bioretention basin, as opposed to just removing material and putting material back. And at that point, I'll turn it over to either Don or Marissa to go over those options.
Sure. Don, do you want me to share the options? I can
Yeah,
share my
I'm not
screen.
seeing Don on the call, Marissa, but I would go
Oh,
ahead and
okay.
do it.
Sure.
I think you might have dropped. Oh, maybe he is here.
Don is
Yep,
there.
he is.
Don, you're muted.
Okay, well,
Okay, go ahead.
sure. So thanks, Steve, for the summary. I think
Apologies
wanted
for
to
that. I'm actually sitting in the car. So yes, please, Marissa.
no problem. Just wanted to start with the rough overlay of the sieve analysis that was provided. Um, the first sample was from 0 to 8 inches of depth. In red, you can kind of see that was the approved submittal, and in black is what the sample came back as. So this area right here at the bottom of the curve is really where it's showing that there's a increase in fines. So there's a lot more fines than there was in the specification and in the approved submittal. The same thing for the 8 to 16-inch sample depth. Again, increase in fines, as you can see at the bottom of the chart here.
Could you zoom in on those a little
Oh,
bit more?
sure.
They're a little difficult to read.
Is that better?
Much better.
Okay, let me zoom in. And this is the final sample that was done. As Steve mentioned, this had the greatest concentration of fines, which that can happen as water moves down through the layers. Sometimes you'll see the greater concentration of fines at the bottom between the two layers of materials. And you know, it's significantly greater than the approved specification, which would cause a restrictive layer on top.
And what do you mean by significant? Is there like a
Sure. So we
50% more fines? You know what?
Yep. So the approved specification had a maximum percentage of fines. I think it was 9.5%, and this 16 to 24-inch depth is 16% fines. And you know, we've seen that really anything over that 9 to 10% can really just clog it. So even a percent or two over that can really cause a restrictive layer. Is there any other questions on the sieve analysis, I guess, before I move to the options?
Anyone from the committee? I should have also introduced Rich McCarthy, town planner. So Rich, certainly if you, I know you're not part of the committee technically, but if you have questions, just feel free to chime in. Thank you.
So based on these results and looking at the test pits and kind of the existing site and constraints of looking at options that could be done while keeping the fire station operational, we have 3 options. The first 2 are somewhat similar, and then the third one is a design modification. So the first option is to augment the existing planting material. So what this would do is remove some of the bioretention planting material, add some sand in to really decrease the overall amount of fines. In addition to this, we would recommend adding a 6-inch perforated pipe in the pea stone layer. And this would allow for an emergency overflow in higher storm events. The purpose of this system is still to function the same way, to still allow water to infiltrate into the ground, but this 6-inch perforated pipe is really just a relief in those larger storm events. Unfortunately, due to the elevations of the existing materials in the existing basin, this would require a connection to the manhole, kind of very close to the sidewalk. So, there would be some additional trenching, and obviously there would also be some work inside the basin and on the slopes. The second option is very similar to the first one, but it also provides a 2 foot by 2 foot stone trench at the top. So when you were looking at the top of the basin, you would be seeing this stone trench. Stone trench would also have a pipe with an overflow. Since this is a lot higher, it could connect into that existing area drain. And then same thing, the planting material would need to be augmented, and some of the layers would need to be augmented as well. Would still function essentially the same way, but it would allow in larger storm events and during the rainy season for it to really make sure that everything drains down. Well, and just to mention, both of these options would still be a depression in the front of the fire station. And at the end of the slide, I kind of have some options for cover as well.
Marissa, could I ask you a quick question before you move on to option 3?
Sure.
Option 2, you have a perforated pipe within the 2x2 stone trench layer, correct? And that's connecting to the overflow?
Correct. Yeah. So because that is at a higher elevation, it can connect to that existing dome structure that's located on the slope.
Okay, but then you're showing a lower 6-inch perf. Is that still going to the drain manhole?
That is also going to connect to the area drain, but
Okay.
it's in a higher
Elevation?
It's in a higher level. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And so both of those options were kind of modifications to the existing design. That it would still be required to have all the planting and everything within the basin for it to function. The third option that we just wanted to include is to raise the system and provide infiltration chambers. So plastic chambers in stone in that same area. So this area in bluish purple is the approximate footprint of that that would be required to equal what is in the basin. And these chambers would be filled with stone. And again, there would be an overflow to this area drain, but on top of the stone section, it could be backfilled, and then as you can kind of see, it's if you're going across, it'd be a more flat area. This option I think would require the most site work, the most work to get the finished product. But it would be a somewhat different design, but it would still meet the stormwater standards and still achieve the same function.
Marissa, can you just mention the maintenance on each one of these?
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. So actually it brings me to my next slide. So there's a couple different options for surface for all three of these options. What you're seeing in these pictures is more of a meadow mix. There are some woody plants. This can be left more natural. It doesn't require a lot of maintenance. You can really mow it once a year. Another cover option, and these would be for option 1 and 2. Another surface option is a grass mix similar to the other bioretention basin on site that could just be mowed when required, or when when they're mowing the rest of the site. Really, these bioretentions, once the plantings are established, they can be mowed, or they can be mowed however is fit for, whenever DPW has availability, or wants to. The third option, the chamber option, we're just showing grass on top of this. So this would, be treated similar to a lawn. Chambers do require some inspection. There is another chamber system on site. Typically just inspecting them, for sediment, there is upstream treatment. So they are not intended to have any sediment in them, but if there was ever an issue, or, a lot of sediment was viewed in them, it would need to be vacuumed out.
We want to open it for questions and comments?
Yes. Sorry, I thought I heard somebody asking a question, but it was faint. So yes, I guess at this time, if anybody has any questions or comments, or like me to talk further about any of the options, happy to.
Yes, I'll open up to committee, or Rich, if you have any initial comments or things you want to discuss.
Yeah,
Okay. That's what you're here for.
yeah. Um, it kind of reminds me, and Aaron's on the call, so it kind of reminds me of back when we were back going through the whole permitting process with this basin option out front in terms of how it would operate, how it would look, and so forth. And seeing what's out there and seeing some of the operate, I feel like the naturalized option that you're talking about is out of place with this application, so hence back when there was not all the members agree on the planning board, but having what you showed in the third option was really what they would have rather some see here in the first place, not what's out there today, because of the overall aesthetic of the fire station and so forth, not placing this right in front of that building, the fire station building. And naturalize why I get it, and I support, those kind of applications. It's just, I don't know. Obviously, I'm talking about option 3 is obviously more expensive, more extensive, and so forth. But option 1 and 2, on the constructability to maybe go in and do this augmentation, and you're going to get the result in the end, like it feels a little challenging to make that augmentation and make it work. Construction standpoint, but
So, just so I understand for my own edification, so you're saying the naturalization options are 1 and 2 of what it looks like today?
we really haven't got to naturalization today because it's wet, right? So it's inundated with water, so we haven't got there yet. But presuming the augmentation were to work, and then we just showed a couple of vegetation, I think they work, and the naturalized works, and it can look nice. I question the long term for this location and this application, and then the maintenance of it. So in terms of maintenance, when you have to mow it, do you have to remove the clippings out of there? Or you just mowing it, and then you got clippings in there that just disintegrate over time.
Kevin, if I might jump in just before we get to pontificating on the options. Can we just sort of, sorry, Rich, to cut you off too.
That's fine.
You guys can tell me to shut up and let Rich keep going if you want, but I just feel like a summary of why we're even considering the options might be helpful.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a good idea. Why, I guess maybe we can just walk through. If the material was silty, found to be too silty, the reason for kind of changing the profile of the cross section versus just putting in what was supposed to be in there originally. Is that what you're getting at, Aaron?
That is what I'm getting at. And I would add one question to that is have we established what the water table level is and is it an issue?
Sure, I can jump in with both of those. So the option 1 and 2 provide the same design. It's more, the under drain is more of a belt and suspenders. So to just that extra reassurance that it's going to work. As far as the water table, we have not established the water table. I think when we were doing the test pits, water was viewed at the below the fire retention section, so below 4.58 feet. But we weren't able to establish at that time that it was actually groundwater or if it was water that was leaking in from another portion of the basin. And that is why we're assuming that groundwater is a little bit higher and why some of these options bring that bottom section up a little bit.
Kind of what I presumed.
So, Aaron, I don't know if you have a follow-up question to that.
I don't really have a follow-up question. Just, we still don't know what the problem is.
So
I think it's fair to say we absolutely know that the abundance of silt in there is a problem. What we don't know, which is your question, Aaron, is where the high seasonal groundwater may be. So hence this approach, which is okay. We knew groundwater from the test pit that was dug out there prior to construction. There was not a test pit dug once the existing building was removed. But in terms of performance, when you look at the basin number 2 right next door, that one's performing fine, which is those are essentially the same elevations as basin 1, correct, Marissa?
Yes, yep, that's correct.
Yeah, so as Marissa said, we're just trying to say, okay, what might we do, knowing you got to get the silts out of there anyway? What might we do to help supplement this basin going forward if it's to stay in basically the same profile that it has right now?
Concern was
But
if we
the-
just
but
take
there's
the
a-
bioretention soil out and put new bioretention soil in, go through that effort, and there's still an issue. We're in the same place that we were. So I guess should be looked at as an improvement.
And so just so I'm clear, so that the only 2 real potential issues are either the material was too silted or high groundwater or some combination of those 2. There's no other potential issue with the system.
No, the
Correct.
system was in the installation of the layers was per the plans and specs and the design.
I'm not sure that's totally what I'm asking. What I'm saying is that if the material had been installed, so we know the material is not per spec. It has too much silt in it. there's potential that there's a groundwater issue that's unknown. We have a groundwater monitoring well, but it's the winter, so it may not be an accurate reading of what high groundwater is. What I'm asking is the only two potential issues with this system functioning is either the silt content or the high groundwater, or a high groundwater table, or some combination thereof, right? And I understood that it's not installed per spec, Steve, but are those the only two potential issues?
Those are the only two the potential issues that we're aware of and that we've been looking at. We think that the silt, at least some of the silt, came in from the fact that the slopes didn't get established with grass, and because of timing, and there was some erosion of the side slopes. I'm not sure if there was an issue with the material that was delivered, because that wasn't tested when it was delivered.
It's as a group or as the design team, do we have any reason to believe that if we installed the basin as it was intended, it would not function?
Based on, sorry,
No, go ahead.
so, based on the information that we have to date and and the other basin on site, we believe that there's a restrictive layer on the top, and that is what is causing most of the problems. The option 1 and 2 are belt and suspenders because, while we're in there doing additional work, we felt in order just to be 100% sure that this is going to function, and, next fall, we're not having the same discussion. It is worthwhile to add that pipe.
But that's presuming that we're accepting that we're at cost for making it function as intended, right? There's an out here where we say the contractor should make it function as it was intended.
Sure. So we're just looking at design options. We weren't looking at who's going to actually perform the work. But I understand that that's important as well.
So just want to be clear. If the decision of the committee is to ask the contractor to make it function as originally intended, we have no reason to believe that it won't work.
We will need to.
I mean,
go ahead.
No, I say, as originally designed, it absolutely should work, and that's through our design with Niche and Beta's peer review of it working for the town.
I want to ask a slightly different question. Same kind of point about this. There was differences that we found in the sieve analysis and the material that was there. If you were 100% sure that you had the separation from the groundwater that you originally, as part of the original design, if that deviation in the material, would you expect it, even that tight of a difference, it still wouldn't work? Or is the groundwater, because it's not potentially higher than where it is, that margin between the material gets much, much more precise, that there's no room for error? It seems like I don't know, it just seems to me that to be so precise with the material fines versus that, and then you have a problem. There should be some room in there that the groundwater is not an issue
Yeah,
here.
so the water that we require per Mass Stormwater standards to have 2 feet of separation from the bottom of the section to groundwater. The bottom of the section is about 4.5 feet below what you see on the surface. below that, during the test pit investigation, it was dug to below that area. Groundwater was not observed in the sections. What we did observe was there was a lot of water in the top section, and then as you move down, the material it went from saturated to moist. So it wasn't wet. There were layers that weren't wet. So that's why that, along with the sieve analysis, is why we came to the conclusion that, there's likely a restrictive layer in that bioretention material.
So contractor, dig it out, put it back together. Most of the work by design, it wasn't installed correctly. Reinstall.
Well, I think we need to at least mention, the contractor has said that they felt that the groundwater table was higher than that 2 foot mark, and that it caused contamination from the bottom up. I mean, they're not on this call. We haven't gone through these options with them because we wanted to get some input from the committee first. But that's what they have brought up. I don't know if they're necessary to not.
Steve, but that was the case, that the groundwater was coming up. When you're doing your test dig and it's going down and the water's more wet on top than going down, that defeats that purpose, I believe.
Yeah, I would tend to agree there. And I need to ask the question, there has been so much talk of potential high groundwater causing these issues. In all of the investigations that we've done here, has there been any evidence of high groundwater or where groundwater is within this? Because people keep saying it, but we have no definitive evidence that it's actually there.
Right, and that's what we were hoping to gain on the 7th, but we weren't able, and it was really not the season either. The season for high groundwater table, correct me if I'm wrong, Marissa, is really the late Q1 to into spring.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's usually spring. So when we're looking for high groundwater on an undisturbed site, we're looking for rust or modeling, it's called, and that is just evidence of estimated seasonal high groundwater. But if a site has been disturbed, because that takes so long to happen, you typically need to look for it in the spring.
Was the other pit that was dug not found to have high water or found to have high water at any point? The one that's operating?
The other bioretention area that is functioning, based on all of our investigation work prior to construction, groundwater was not observed.
Okay, so I'm just seeing, that we're seeing evidence of, or we have the facts that the silt is higher than allowed. We don't have any evidence that the high groundwater is there. If the contractor is going to keep saying that they think that this is because of high groundwater, should the onus not be on them to prove it with evidence, like we are proving that the silt is there?
And along that lines, would that theory also hold true for pit number 1? Because wouldn't that have failed if it was high water?
Yeah, you mean
I'm not an engineer, but
you mean detention basin number 1?
Yeah.
I guess, is there a scenario where
Well, I mean,
the 2 basins?
There's an issue of when the work was done too. That detention basin that's functioning was completed prior to this particular one, only because of the construction sequence, and it ended up they were doing this work in December, and partly they couldn't get the establishment of the slopes because it was out of the planting season, and then we had a bunch of storms, and then everything froze up. So it wasn't ideal conditions for them. But to get back to your point, Todd, if the onus is on them, then they can't, just as we can't determine exactly what the high seasonal groundwater table is because of the time of the year. They won't be able to do it until springtime also. I mean, we
The
could
other
certainly
ones
have
are
them.
fun. Didn't they have, you had data on the other ones? Didn't you have data that you actually had data in terms of the ones that are functioning where groundwater was? Because it wasn't where the the old station was
Yeah,
occupying.
there was test pits and I think some borings done around the area where this basin is, because you're right. I mean, this particular basin was under the building. So the closest one that we have was out front where I think the flagpole and the monument used to be. The
Yeah,
monument.
I just kind of, I don't know if you can see my screen. I just highlighted it. So that
Yeah,
was
I can see
a
it.
test pit that was done. And then there was also one uh, by the other basin.
Yeah. But they're also much higher up too. They're not as deep, those other basins over there,
The,
right?
so these test pits were dug to 2 feet below the elevation of this bioretention.
And the other ones that are
Yep,
functioning similar.
same depth, same section. The only difference was, that one has a grass on top versus that naturalized material. This one was specified to have a naturalized material. Um, it, as long as it's established, it doesn't make a big difference in the type of material on top.
Yeah.
I mean, sequencing and means and methods is the contractor's responsibility, right?
Yes.
So what's the recommendation of the design team?
Um, well, I mean, we're suggesting that there are, I guess the first option is just to fix the problem and move along. Next option would be to fix the problem and add a perforated pipe at a certain level. Second one is basically a drainage channel at a different level, and that allows for potential overflow to go someplace. And then lastly would be and the reason we showed this was kind of because what Rich has been saying, and we've heard that, is that, hey, maybe we don't even want this out front, even with the vegetation that's supposed to grow in there, to bring everything up to a level that can just be mowed.
Sorry, just want to
So,
jump in. I understand what the options are. What is the recommendation of the design team?
well, I guess there is no strong recommendation right now. These are options that we're presenting to the building committee for consideration. They all would be considered viable.
So I know you've mentioned that adding the stone layer under augmenting the soil that's there and then putting a stone layer underneath is a belt and suspenders approach. What is what are we belt and suspendering? Like what are the potential issues with the current design that we would need belt and suspenders?
So the belt and suspenders is just for high intensity rainstorms. As we've been getting higher intensity rainstorms in shorter spans. And it's just really to provide a relief to make sure that after this basin is established, additional water has a place to go. So just an additional outlet. The design would still be to have most of the water infiltrating into the ground. It's a 6-inch perforated pipe. So it's, not a huge pipe. It's not intended to take a ton of flow. It's really just to make sure that top level drains.
If groundwater
So
water were an issue, would it help with that at all?
So the pipe on top and the the pipe at the bottom. Our intention is not to collect groundwater and discharge it to, the town system because we don't want to overwhelm it. So, we're intending to have that above groundwater.
De-water the basin basically
For a high,
for storms, so repetitive storms, yeah. Because it's like 72, right? Was the design that it would. What was the?
Yep.
72
Yeah.
hours.
So they're designed to. They have to drain within 72 hours. This planting mix and the type of soils that are across the site, it should be draining much quicker than that.
so as I think people have pointed out, we have no reason to suspect that groundwater is an issue. We haven't taken a groundwater reading in the spring. So there's still no reason to suspect it, but we don't have any concrete data. But any of the three options, well, there's really four options, right? So just reconstruct the basin as
Replace it,
originally
right.
intended. And then these three belt and suspenders options. None of these three options, if groundwater turns out to be some issue, we get a reading in the spring and the groundwater side for some reason. Do any of these three options address high groundwater?
So these options are higher. So we're giving an increased buffer. If for some reason we don't anticipate it based on everything we've observed, but if for some reason groundwater is significantly higher than the bottom of basin, then we would have to review the design again. But based on the information we have to date, we don't believe that is true.
So at this time, all things considered, I say we go back to the contractor and say, figure out the high water table. A month or two from now, they can figure out what a high table is. I'm assuming that's the time frame we're looking at, because it's going to be a month or two of any of these options.
Well, yeah,
I'd imagine even if we're just putting them, if we're going with, call it option 0, which is just reconstruct the basin as originally intended.
But they're going to want to see the high water table, so that's going to be a delay.
Well, what I'm saying is that if one of the potential issues is that it was built in December last year, we don't want to do that again.
Well, I'm not saying to do it now. I'm saying for them to
I'm
find
agreeing
out.
with you, right?
Yep.
So you do it in the spring.
I think you have to wait until spring, because if we're going in the direction of saying, okay, contractor deficient bioretention layer, replace the bioretention layer. You want to do that in the spring. That way, when he's doing that, you can potentially test for a high groundwater table or see where that's at. But the other part of it is, you can put the bioretention soil in and have the same problem we did with the planting mix, having to wait as we did last year. Then just wait, pull it out, do it all at once, stabilize the slopes if they have to use sod or whatever, so that you don't get any potential for silting, even regardless of erosion controls. And you have the opportunity to maybe see if the groundwater table is high, because they'll be reconstructing it. And they're only peeling off. Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong. They're only peeling off the 2-foot bioretention layer. Everything below, and that sounds easier than it is, but essentially that's what needs to be replaced, and lowering the invert of the rim invert of the overflow.
Yes. So. And there's options for kind of blending some material on site within the basin, so that you don't have to take out the whole 2-foot section if that's desired. But yes, it would be that bioretention planting material that would need to be removed, which is augmented.
Yeah, the 24-inch soil layer, and then well, obviously the mulch layer, the 3-inch mulch layer that went on top of that, which is at this point mostly gone or pushed off to the side.
Yes.
So
and we don't address the options.
So you originally were trying to get this done sooner than later. Obviously, that's not the case. So you're back to the spring of 2026, where you could also investigate, right, to determine the high groundwater, to gather that information, whether you do it or they do it, right? Because the contractor's like, we're not buying that. We did a bad job. It's the groundwater. And
Yeah, it's still going to be let's say a discussion point
yeah,
with them.
Yeah, I guess the way I'm leaning, or my thought is that at this point, as you pointed out, Rich, we're waiting till the spring anyway to rebuild this thing.
yeah.
At this point, if we don't, we have no reason to suspect that groundwater is an issue. Just rebuild the basin as originally intended, or that's the direction at this point. And if we get to the spring when they're rebuilding it and the groundwater's higher, that something needs to be rethought, or now one of these options has merit because it raises the basin, then it can be addressed at that point. But I guess my gut right now would be just rebuild it first bet.
Do we have any? Do we have any idea what the cost? Sorry.
No, I was going to open it up to you, Chris and Justin, to see if you had thoughts. I was just pointing out that Todd left. So,
Yeah.
so go ahead.
One more question. One more question for me. Do we have any idea what the costs are of the options?
We have not issued any of these. I mean, you can see they're rough designs as it is, but we haven't issued anything to the contractor for pricing. Obviously, the third option would be the most expensive. I put some very rough numbers to it. And with removal, replacement, building up of the Cultex and so forth. I mean, I think that could be around $50,000 or $60,000. The second option is the least amount. It's maybe half or less than that. And the first option is a little bit more because you're having to cut into that slope and get into that manhole that's at the street. The second option is the best and quickest because everything is contained in the basin itself.
So, in the spirit of collaborating and moving on, if we're talking about let's say an $80,000 fix, worst case scenario, is it worth having a conversation with the contractor to say, we'll pay for half of it and you pay for half of it?
I'm sure that we can open up a conversation with them. I know Castagna wants to put this behind him also based on my conversations with their PM.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you there, Aaron. Like, I think we all just want to put this behind us, but I guess my thought is with any of these options, we're not building them to the spring anyway. Do we take the groundwater reading in the spring? Because we might have to rethink any of these options as well.
Yeah, because if you're going to do this, right, when are you going to do it? You're not doing it March 21st, which is the first day of spring, right? You're probably doing this in April, towards the end, May. When would you execute the work, I guess, time-wise?
It would need to be during the growing season to make sure it's established, so weather dependent.
Yeah, so we're
Which I
probably
think ends May 30th by spec, maybe. I don't have it in front of me, but somewhere around there.
What if we went with option 3, which was the most expensive option? What's stopping us from doing it next week?
As long as it was stable at the top was stabilized in the winter, it could be planted at any time.
But Aaron, isn't part of the issue that we have silt in this basin is because they tried to build it in the winter last year and couldn't get the sides established?
Yeah, but that's because but that is implying that the performance of the basin is dependent on the silt. Option 3 doesn't depend on drainage of the silt.
Got it.
Yeah. You agree, Marissa?
Yeah, so option 3 is fully subsurface. So I'm gonna share my screen again. Sorry, I'm not sure why this isn't zooming in. So you can kind of see it brings up that surface grade. So it removes the side slopes that could enter the basin, and everything's below surface in stone wrapped in filter fabric. So it is receiving pre-treatment prior to entering here. So there shouldn't be any sediment in this system.
And Marissa, the drainage piping that's entering into the basin where the flare ends are now, that would connect into that stone layer or into directly into one of the chambers itself, like an end, a closed-in end. So it's everything goes directly into the chamber voids.
Yep. So it would connect directly into a chamber. We would recommend they have like it's called they'll wrap one of the chambers a row separately in filter fabric, so it adds just like an additional treatment. So there might need to be a little bit of modification to this pipe, but these would connect directly into the chamber system. Same thing with these structures. Would probably have a low point and then have an area drain collect it and be piped and connect directly into the chambers.
Yeah, because that's just a surface, a little bit of treatment and then a surface drainage at this point.
Yep. So we'd have to bring it underground, but so there would be, some additional pipe connections, but it wouldn't be connecting or filtering from the top. It would be connecting directly to the chambers.
Are there any other restrictions on building this? Like, I assume the ground can't be frozen when you're doing it. I guess to Aaron's point, what is stopping us from doing it? If the contractor comes back and says, yeah, it's probably about 50, 60 grand and we'll eat half of it. What is stopping us from doing this, from a environmental perspective, from a planning board perspective? Like what are the potential hurdles that we got to get over to do it?
Well, we would have, when we talked with Rich yesterday, it would have to go in front of, or any one of these three options. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but would have to go in front of the board for at least an administrative approval. And you also wanted to go through Beta to have their eyes on it.
Yeah, yes. But we could have Beta look at it before it gets to the board, so the next meeting, yeah, next meeting is January 13th, so.
So potentially you're in front of the board January 13th. They say, yay.
Yay.
I guess, could you start the next day, or do you need to be building this when the temperature is, 30 degrees and what?
Now they probably won't like, oh, hey, there he is. Perfect. Hi, how are you? They do have a special. So let's say hi. Yeah. Good timing. So if the planning board was okay with adding another item on their December 22nd
Could you step in front of
agenda
the camera?
for
Thank you.
a stormwater modification for the fire station, there is a meeting December 22nd.
Okay, we have enough time to put it on the notice and all that.
Yeah, so the discussion would be administrative review. It doesn't need a hearing.
Okay.
To change the basin.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'd rather get it done faster than, putting it out further.
Yeah.
But so if we put, I guess I'm just thinking like, we take this to a contractor and they start to fight, they're not going to pay for any of it. And it's $100,000. And now we say, you know what, screw it. We're going to go back to the original design.
Kevin, here's the scenario I would say that came back from the contractor. And we're just using crazy numbers. If we say, like Aaron said, it's $80,000 to do option 3, and you wanted to split it 50-50, which would be 40 to the general contractor, but for him to replace the bioretention mix or augment it in place per the original design is like 10,000. He's going to say, well, the most I would do is 10,000. So, and then at that point, maybe you just go back and say, okay, just do it per design.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is if we go in front of the planning board and say, this is what we want to do, but then the contractor balks at it, so we go back to the original design. Do we have to go back to the planning board again to say, you know what, we're going to stick with the original design?
No, I think you could do it so that,
I mean,
you stick to the original.
the original design that was proposed and already approved,
Yeah,
and I don't think that
Yeah.
needs an additional review, no.
Okay.
And any changes we could just modify on the as-built as required, because it's not a meaningful change from the perspective of the functionality and what's expected of it. I mean, if there's different things that are being removed or added, then yes, we're gonna want that represented, but I don't think it needs a full site plan review for something like that.
Okay.
I walked in at the right time?
yeah, thanks.
Yeah. That was super. Chris or Justin, any questions?
No, I don't have anything additional. Thank you.
I would only say if we're going to go back or tell them to just make it work as intended, we need someone there on site to make sure that the proper size material is what's being used.
Agreed. So
What do you want?
what do you guys think? Do we want to go to the contractor and say, hey, what does it cost to build option 3? And are you willing to split the cost with us?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea to at least get an idea of it and see what they say.
And you have time to be able to do that before we put it on the agenda, so you can have that discussion.
For December 22nd?
Yeah, because it's only 48 hours ahead, so, I mean, you can, but next week, middle of next week kind of thing.
If you just let me know what you want us to do with Castagna, and we'll proceed as quickly as possible. Because it's getting to be a bad time of the year to sort of get people.
Right. But the benefit of option 3 is you could build that in the winter and it's relatively low risk to build it in the winter.
Yes, I mean, it would still need to be stabilized on top and come back and seated on top in the spring, but the main function of the system could be built, weather dependent.
All right. I think we go to the contractor and see what it's going to cost. Justin or Aaron, what do you guys think?
I think that's fine.
Okay, so option 1 and 2 are off the table. It's option 3, or it's replace the bioretention layer as per the design. But find out what the cost is for option 3 and their willingness to participate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to me, it sounds like the benefit of option 3 is we possibly get this resolved sooner. We don't have to wait till the spring to build it.
Yeah, the other option, they're paying the whole bill, right?
What's that?
The other option, they're paying the bill.
I don't know. Yeah, option 1 and 2 probably not, but option 0, yes. Because I think option 1 and 2, they probably say there's a change in the design.
Right. Or it'd be an incremental amount. If that's the direction we'll go, that's the direction we'll take. Marissa, what I'll need from you is a little bit more detail on the drawing so we can get them something in a format that they can then price, and we'll have to turn that around quickly.
Yes, we can certainly add some more details so that they can appropriately price it.
Yeah, especially with the pipe connections that are there, that type of, even if it's just narrative notes, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the path forward, Steve.
Yep. Appreciate it.
All right. Before we move off that discussion item, anything else from the committee or Rich that you want to bring up?
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to anybody on the committee or Rich, if they want to talk about anything further on it before we move off it. Doesn't look like, okay. All right. No other discussion items on the agenda tonight. The only action item is approval of meeting minutes from September 10th.
Okay. Yeah, we also have, I believe, the October 8th meeting minutes as well, which I've reviewed. So we can do both of those.
Chris, did you get my email that I sent you about the revision?
On the October 8th minutes?
October 8th, yes.
I did not know.
Oh, I just sent it just before the meeting.
Okay.
Carly Collimore works for Vertex, not Niche. That's all.
Okay, so then we'll just vote on the September 10th
That's
one.
amended. Oh, no.
Oh, you could just say as amended.
Yeah.
As amended, as discussed at this meeting.
Okay. So we'll
Fairly minor.
Yep. Okay, so we'll vote to approve the September 10th minutes and the October 8th minutes as amended. I'd like to ask for a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Since we're on Zoom, I'll go through the roll call. Kevin Champagne?
Yes.
Todd Lindmark?
He had to leave.
He stepped out. Okay. Aaron Hunt?
Yes.
Justin Yanosik?
Yes.
And Chris Baker? Yes.
All right. Motion's passed. All right. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second. Justin or Aaron?
So moved.
Chris Baker?
Aye.
Aaron Hunt?
Yes.
Justin Yanosik?
Yes.
Kevin Champagne, yes. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.